Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the strong and powerful 7 combo guard break follow-up attack, as well as the new awakenings announced in Japan. Now, we are experiencing a certain degree of power creep through our awakenings, and this is an interesting way to push power into new cards because awakenings do have the chance or opportunity to be generated on a card once they receive a new evolution. So again, we can basically keep recycling or reusing older cards through new evolutions to keep them current and viable. And this is great because then that way we don't have to roll so much. And this article slash video will be examining this basically all the 3 major new awakenings that are basically coming out. Like I said, 7 combo, guard break, and follow-up attack. So the 7 combo awakening is perhaps the most powerful awakening that has been released in Puzzle & Dragons because it allows that card to deal 2 times damage when you achieve 7 or more combos. So this can be likened to killer awakenings, except they're effective against all types of spawns, as well as having a somewhat on-off switch, because you can consciously match, say, 5 or 6 combos to prevent you from hitting the 7 and thus explosive damage, or conversely, if you have those no Skyfall mechanic leaders like Kusanagi Hime, Dark Metatron, the 7 combo awakening is a beautiful form of damage control for you, because that way you still have burst damage while having the option of not dealing smaller amounts to deal with spawns like, say, Sopdet and Parvati. So I feel that the 7 combo awakening is kind of the way of the future in PAD, because they are starting to liberally blanket the 7 combo awakening across many different cards and characters, and this is fantastic because they're also pushing out leaders who are more combo oriented, because it is going to shift your playstyle towards a more pure combo nature. And that is perhaps one of the main reasons why people started playing Puzzle & Dragons in the first place. The whole idea of matching orbs, maximizing the board, and just comboing more naturally instead of making these funny patterns such as heart crosses. Because even though the heart cross meta was very powerful and viable, people did not necessarily enjoy playing it because it was non-intuitive and it just felt a little clumsy and cumbersome because you had to occupy such a large space in your board for non-offensive orbs, and it just felt frustrating, and people really just played it because it was powerful. Whereas the combo-oriented playstyle is going to be probably accepted a lot more widely because it feels intuitive, it looks prettier, and it's just possibly more enjoyable to play, or at least it is for myself. And even with 7 combo awakenings, people, you might see them on row-based cards. For instance, Dark Metatron, she has notoriously always been a row-based leader. And even though she has 2 row awakenings, she also has that 7 combo. And because of that 7 combo, you're actually going to be kind of building her team somewhat TPA / combo based. So you actually don't even need to pursue making that row. And by doing that, you actually can conserve orbs because you don't actually have to have 6 dark orbs present. You are able to basically use whatever board you're given, which saves you time and active skills, which will also raise your consistency. And also it allows you to utilize cards like, say, Haku, who do have 7 combo awakenings. So I feel like this is a very powerful and a very fun awakening, and my hope is that more and more cards start seeing this 7 combo awakening, and that will hopefully at least expand the team building potential, because right now we don't have that many cards with 7 combo awakenings, but maybe in the next couple of months we will have more, and then team building will have a bit more diversification instead of just Hakus. So while the meta is definitely shifting towards a more combo-oriented playstyle, I feel like Gung Ho will probably try and mix it up again in maybe the next several months with combos, like 7 combo awakenings on cards or leaders that have some extra mechanic. For instance, right now, they've just announced, possibly maybe even released, a Fire or Red Mirror, and it's a Heart Cross leader with 7 combo awakenings. So I feel like that's where the game will start to shift in the next couple of months. Guard Break. Now, Guard Break Awakening has the potential to reduce an enemy's defense down to 0 when you match rainbow colors. So basically, if you match fire, water, wood, light, and dark, while having those elements on your team, you are able to reduce that enemy's monster's defense to 0 and thus subsequently kill them if they had high defense, low health. So this has the most applications when dealing with pre-draws, because we now no longer require you to have an active skill to bypass them, provided your leader can't hit 10 million damage. And this is very powerful and potent, especially in solo mode, when you actually have less active skills to work with, because you have 6 bases and 6 inherits. So it can somewhat choke your active skills if you're always forced to bring some true damage or poison counter to them. And by having the guard break will at least alleviate that concern, because now you simply have that card as a sub. Hopefully it has a useful base active skill, and you can simply inherit the desirable active skill over top, and you still have that guard break potential. However, not every team, or especially every dungeon, requires guard break for success, because if the dungeon has no high defense monsters, you obviously don't need to pursue that rainbow team. But depending on the cards you actually do have available to yourself, it may not be advantageous to actually pursue the guard break awakening with the full rainbow coverage. Now, I say this because having full rainbow coverage can become problematic on certain teams depending on your monster box, because you have to have all 5 elements. So say you're playing a monocolor team, you obviously fill up your team with the primary attribute you want, and then you need to fill in the sub attributes, and you may not necessarily have the right sub attribute cards available, or you may just have you may have all 5 elements, but you're using less ideal cards overall. And if you find that you're gimping your team significantly just to counter a single floor, which has many counters available, it's not worth pursuing. Furthermore, we obviously have defense voids, poisons, and true damage actives to mitigate those threats, so you can easily inherit them over top. But I want to highlight how potent and powerful Famiel and Lumiel have become in the last couple of months, because Famiel and Lumiel both are able to deal 100,000 true damage while generating a 4-element board that does not produce hearts. And in the past, I have been quite critical of these 4-element boards, and this is because we have, at least at that point in time in the past, used teams and leaders that were very orb hungry, and a 4-element board for the most part would not guarantee you enough primary color orbs to deal damage. This is most notable on monocolor row teams, because 4-elemental boards spawn on average 8.5 of each color, so you get 1 row and not even another combo possibly. So this was problematic and would always force you to use some sort of follow-up active skill afterwards. So you'd be using 2 active skills to accomplish what a tricolored board changer might do already on their own. However, the meta in terms of what is available nowadays for leaders is dramatically shifting towards leaders who have very high multipliers and are not as orb hungry by comparison for at least those primary color orbs. This is due to the fact that we have 7 combo awakenings, as well as crazy fast scaling multipliers like, say, Kushinada Hime. Because now when you do that 4-elemental board, you are going to be guaranteeing yourself plenty of combos. You still should have more than enough primary color orbs to deal sufficient damage. And even having those as an inherit that gets charged up on, say, the Radar Dragons in Arena 3, it's not a bad thing, because you have at least a comboable board that will be able to deal lethal amounts of damage. So the need for guard break, I feel, is definitely lowered if you have Famiel and Lumiel and they actually work for your respective teams. And I'll use my own team as an example, because for my Kushinada Hime team, I could not feasibly bring a light healer because I just didn't have a great sub pool for it. And I do own Claire, so I do have guard break available. However, I elected to use my 3 Hakus plus Claire instead, because I'm able to obviously blanket them with Dragon Killers, which you can of any healer, but I'd have 4 subs with the Dark primary attribute, so I would actually have a reasonably consistent damage output instead of having, say, 3 Dark and then 1 Light primary card. So this is actually very more advantageous for myself, and I have Lumiel, so I just inherit Lumiel on my Claire, and I'm good to go. So again, you don't always have to pursue guard break if it's not convenient to do so. If you're encountering a dungeon where, say, there's multiple high defense cards, say in future dungeons, it may be beneficial to bring them, but oftentimes that true damage nuke might be sufficient, especially if you have a leader that can maximize that 4-elemental board. And finally, I do want to obviously stress that if you have leaders with very high multipliers, you don't need to pursue guard break, even though they have that awakening. And that's most notable on Light Metatron, because Light Metatron has guard break, but she's able to easily punch through the pre-draws, so you don't actually need to build your team around guard break for Light Metatron. Next is Follow-Up Attack. And Follow-Up Attack is a new awakening that has been released in Japan, and it basically allows you to match a column of hard orbs to deal a follow-up attack damage of 1 true damage to all enemies on the screen. So this is purely used to defeat resolve bosses, because the way it will work is that you match your orbs, you hit and deal damage, the boss goes down to 1 health, and then the follow-up attack occurs. That will instantly kill them and prevent them from actually using their 1% resolve mechanic. So we obviously do have many different ways to deal with resolves, such as damage control, gravities, counterattacks if you can survive the 1% execution, or even just like some sort of large shield to tank that 1% execution damage. So we did have at least ways to deal with it, but this follow-up attack is going to be the easiest way to do so, because even though you do have to spawn that column of hard orbs, you are still left with a 5x5 board, and that 5x5 board contains 25 or at least 8 combos worth potential matching. So you have a potential to match 9 combos on the board still, and you shouldn't really be that hindered by it. So you would be able to utilize combo-oriented leaders with this follow-up attack. And this obviously is a problem for row teams, because row teams won't be able to use this. They could technically make a row in the middle and then pray that a hard orb falls into place when you have that 4 cascading down. It's not reliable. I don't recommend it. And this is going to be one of the more powerful mechanics in the game, especially when you're dealing with heavy resolve encounters. So, for instance, in Arena 3, you now can easily bypass Il-6, Hino, Zeus and Hera, Zhao Yu, and Sha Wu Jing without really compromising your playstyle or even like your active skills available, because you now just have passively the ability to kill resolve floors. And I feel like this is a very fast acceleration of power creep that's very similar to Fujin, in that it makes things that used to be hard and challenging to easy. However, once you do, at least for myself, once I've tasted the Fujin active's power, I don't really want to go back to not having it, because it just makes life so much easier. And I feel like that's going to be the same case with this follow-up attack. And now the big issue will be who will actually have that follow-up attack awakening, and where can we utilize them for maximum efficiency. And then now these are some new awakenings and latent awakenings that were announced in Japan. You can read this Reddit post here if you want to have a link to like that discussion, as well as links to the JP notes themselves. But basically there's going to be team health boost awakenings that produce 5% more health for the team, and team recovery by 10%. And those are incredibly powerful, because those are basically somewhat similar to solo badges, and that's going to add a tremendous amount of bulk to your characters. And the main issue will be who will be receiving those awakenings, because those are amazingly powerful. And now we're transitioning to more of the latent awakenings. And latent awakenings are ways to basically customize your individual monsters, and they're going to be giving you bigger health boosts, bigger attack, bigger recovery, and bigger time extend boosts. So these are hopefully going to make them more powerful and relevant, because right now, for the most part, skill delay resists plus specialized killer awakenings are really the most powerful ones to have at this point in time. So unless these health, attack, and recovery boosts, and even time extend boosts, are meaningful enough, it's going to be hard to justify using them on your team. So we just need to wait and see to see where these come out. But overall, these are at least hopefully pushing out more power for your individual cards. So again, with these latent awakenings, you can take a card that is older and just make them more powerful, so which does at least lower the need to keep rolling the rare machine over and over again. So basically, in conclusion, having more powerful awakenings and latent awakenings are a very interesting way to advance power creep, because it does allow, like I said earlier, older cards to gain new awakenings through evolutions to keep them relevant. And that at least is a happy and more appealing aspect for a lot of players, because there's less, you don't have to rely on rolling new cards all the time from the rare machine. So my main hope of these new awakenings is that more and more cards start to gain them, so that way we at least have some diversification instead of just only Haku meta right now. But only time will tell what we have in store. So which of these awakenings are making you the most excited, and how have you been using guard break, or even using guard break at all at this point in time? Let me know what you feel like in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling.